Let me just tweet it out here so everybody join in 1 second, please. There we go. There. And there. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Good, good, good. All right. Well, I hope everybody had a great trading day today. And what a wild price action day today. Amazing stuff. So it was a wacky Wednesday, I guess we could call it. Anyway, guys, today we're going to be continuing our series on using volume, and today we're going to be talking about time frames. So really helpful stuff here. Again, we don't talk about this too much. So again, hopefully you guys have been taking apart some interest or taking out some interesting tidbits here on volume this week that are helping you. This is a great topic here too. So before we get started, everything we're going to talk about is for educational purposes only and not investment advice. So please take a moment to review this disclaimer. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Good, good, good. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look and see where we left off the market today. And then we're going to take a look at the futures and see what we're up to or down to here this evening and what might be setting up going into tomorrow. And then we'll go through the topic, then we'll take questions and chart requests. So let's get started. All right, so SPX ended up finishing up 5 points today, but it wasn't after some wild price action, right? And also a pretty bearish candle yesterday, so they managed to hold on pretty well. Still green on the monthly chart, green on the weekly chart with 2 days left here in the trading week. Today was not a Fed day. Today was actually just J-Pow talking, and I think Beige Book came out today, so and some other Fed speakers. So there was a lot of Fed activity, but today was not FOMC day. I think I mentioned a couple times this week that we were heading into the Fed this week, but misread the calendar. So that's coming up on July 28th. So that being said, though, the daily chart, despite being green today, still ended up basically a bit down right below its open. So we got a red candle here today. Kind of a spinning top type day, but still over the 80 MA. But kind of tricky stuff right here. We had a pretty bearish candle yesterday, and we really need to see what this thing is trying to do, right? So we're getting tight, right? So what I've done here is I've drawn this Elliott wave that we may actually be starting an Elliott wave triangle here. So it is possible that this was a B C or sorry A B kind of tough right there. It's a little bit of an overshoot. Maybe this is start of it here, but A B C D E, and then we'll see if we start to work our way up. I'm more leaning toward still a possible expanded flat on this one. So you can kind of look at this as your A, your B, and we might be working on a larger wave C down. So in other words, this could be a 1, 2. Right, and then we'll see if we get wave 3 down. It would be interesting if it filled that gap. That would be quite an interesting drop there, and then worked its way up. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, this could be it, right? So this, this basically is going to be ABC. It could be wave 4, it could be done. It also could be working on a wave 1, 2, and then we could just kind of keep launching. So we really need to see what the price action is here through the rest of the week, but we'll definitely pay attention to it and go from there, right? So good stuff there. Let's take a look at the S&P futures and see what we're up to or down to here this evening. So down about $1.25, about $1.25 right now. So kind of choppy stuff here after hours. Wild price action today, right? So and wild price action yesterday too. So last night when we were on the live stream here, we talked about this down move, and we actually had a geometric line pointing basically, where were we? So we were basically here at the time. Afterward, right, we got a little bit of a pop through this geometric line and then back down again, right? So it's kind of leaning towards that bearish sentiment. And then this morning, right, we had a little bit of overnight drift after 2 o'clock, right after the European Open. We got a little bit of a pop there, and then they kind of came back down, retested those lows, and then gave some sloppy price action up. But on this turn down, right, we get this fresh geometric line right here, and that is what kind of started this move. And it was really pretty epic. This launch right here was just didn't even make sense, right? I mean, there was really no information. I mean, I guess some PPI numbers came out, but whatever it was 13,000 contracts. They really kind of launched it and then pushed a little bit into the open, but a lot of upper shadows here off of the prior all-time highs. And so that kind of got us a little bit suspicious about how strong they were going to be today, right? We talked about, we always talk about here when we get to overtime highs, we at least want to consolidate above here and then work our way up. But the fact that they kept on rejecting it right here kind of gave us some bearish sentiment. So we were pretty bearish this morning, right? We got short. We pointed out a couple short opportunities in the group today. We pointed out Roku, pointed out the SPY with some puts, and pretty interesting stuff, right? So it gave a nice move, and then a huge dip buy off of yesterday's lows, and but not an epic V reversal that we've been seeing a lot, right? So this was a big V reversal here, right? Ended up blowing through those the scene of the breakdown on that one. This one kind of kind of really didn't get back to the highs right here. It kind of consolidated. So maybe it is possible, like we said, that it's starting that waveform move down. And this is basically a retrace, kind of a couple upper shadows up here off of the 618. And we might be starting a fresh impulsive move down, right? So we'll see how that goes going into tomorrow. In the meantime, what we'll do is we'll put this geometric line here, and here, and see how that holds. If it breaks out there, it may test the all-time highs again. And what we can do is we can kind of put this out here too and kind of give us a little bit of a kind of a triangle, and see how that holds throughout the evening. That only takes us through about the overnight drift time, right? So see how that goes here around 2 a.m. when the European market opens and where they trade it. So it could be interesting there. So good stuff. So anyway, guys, let's get to the topic here. So this week we've been talking about using volume, and today we're going to talk about time frames. So what do we mean about that? So what we're saying, basically, what we're saying here is that just kind of get an example here recently. So of a couple of the names that we've been talking about. Let me make sure I got that switched over right here. So if we pull up Amazon here on the daily chart, this is one of the examples that we've been looking at. You kind of go up here. We drew a lot of kind of time frames right here with the or a lot of areas here of increased volume where we got some turning points. So we were talking about the turning points yesterday, and so one of the things that we like to look for in our group is not only a volume increase on the time frame that we're focusing on the most, but we also want to look at the larger time frame and see how that is behaving, right? So if we go here on the weekly chart, right, if we kind of go back here to this week of early April, and then we'll also take a look at the the February and the March areas. What we do is we want to see kind of corresponding volume here as well, right? And so you can see on the weekly chart, right, that we also had increasing volume on the weekly chart kind of going. Of course, there's earnings right there, but still pretty high average volume on this pullback. Right now, we're not seeing too much, right? We got a bunch here. We had a bunch last week, and we're just not really seeing much yet here as we kind of head into the end of the week. If we go back here, right, so we go back to the February time frame, we can see we got a nice increased volume into there before things started to move. And then same thing here in February, before things started to turn back up, we had some increasing volume as well, and that ended up getting some follow through. So what we like to do is not only see that volume is moving up on the time frame that we're focusing on, but we also want to look at the higher time frame, relative time frame, to kind of see how things are looking here. So the daily chart, I'm looking at the weekly. That's usually pretty good. Another thing you can do is look at the 3-day chart. That looks pretty good. I like the multiples of 3. It's also a Fibonacci number, so that helps a lot too. So on the intraday time frame, one of the big things that we look at to get confirmation is that we're also seeing some downside pressure on the so say we like to look at the 5-minute chart to look to refine entries, but we also want to see volume increasing on the 15-minute chart to really confirm some type of momentum move, right? And so if you go here on Roku today. So this is one of the ones that we kind of pointed out short in our group today. One of the things that you can look at is as we started to break down here, right, we started to see kind of this average volume rate start to increase here on the downside, right, as things started to move down. And this is actually an ideal entry right here, but I think we got, I pointed it out kind of short in this area right here on the retrace to it, and that ended up giving a nice move down. So a nice, very nice move on Roku. Ended up being almost 10 points, and then for the day, almost like 12 points. So really nice stuff there. But if you look not only in the 5-minute time frame, because you can get a lot of false signals, right? You can see here it's like, oh, increased volume, this thing's ready to go. And the 5, so you're focusing on one time, especially if you guys look at the smaller time frames like the 1-minute chart. I would suggest also looking at the 3-minute chart, possibly the 5-minute chart as well. Also a Fibonacci number, right? So pretty cool stuff there. But you can see here as this volume was increasing, right, all the way up to this 11 o'clock, 11:05 time frame, right? If you go to the 15-minute chart, right, you can also see in here, right, into this time frame, on this breakdown right here, we started to see volume really start to creep up on the 15, right? And one of the big stocks that we see a lot that does this is Tesla, right? So Tesla, is prone to like these mega short squeezes, but it only does it when the volume is, it really only does it when the volume is increasing on the 5 and the 15, right? So when you see that sort of that type of volume start to come in, right, that's where we start to get really interested, right? So pretty cool stuff. So it's a great tool to have, and you really want to see that average volume kind of rising, and then the volume increasing on the larger time frame as well. And like I said, you can start to do it on the the weekly chart or the daily 3-day chart as well to try to get some volume confirmation, right? So one good example here recently, right, is Coin, right? And we talked about this as an example of gave a kind of a breakout candle, right, and then didn't go, right? If you go to the daily chart right here, it had the breakout candle pull back, and then it gave another candle with increased volume, right? So you kind of look at this, it's like, yeah, right, Coin is getting ready to go. But if you go to the weekly chart on this one, right, what was really happening right here? Not much, right? So look at the volume was declining this entire time, right? So this was this kind of was the week of 7.5 right here, and you can see kind of going into this week, despite the increased volume here on 7.7, what was really going on the weekly chart, right? This week, not much, right? So there was no real confirmation that things were really, trying to get going. If you go to, a name like Neo, right? Sometimes this thing will give some huge breakout moves, right? And some really big volume, right? So let's kind of go back into this area right here, back into the October, November timeframe of last year when it really started to launch, right? So you go to the weekly chart in that October, November timeframe of last year, right? You can see we started to get some weekly charts with some very nice increasing volume simultaneously, and that can give us some really good clues, especially because the week isn't over yet, right? So if you have more volume that's coming in throughout the week than that was the prior week, and we're seeing some increasing volume on the daily chart, that can give us a little bit more confirmation that things are really getting ready to go. So cool. So good stuff, guys. Hopefully you found that helpful. At this point, if anybody's got any questions or chart requests, please feel free to plug those in the chat window. We'll get through as many as we can. Try to wrap up as early as possible so we can all get a good night's sleep and have another awesome trading day tomorrow. So good stuff. So Shirley sent a few in here via email. So let me get these pulled up here. So Shirley, I hope you're doing great out there. Let's take a look at AMC. So guys, AMC was on our bearish radar yesterday in the group. And we were just expecting it to get down to the 50-day moving average, but wow, it really dropped right here and actually filled a gap. So pretty cool move there on AMC. There could be some more downside on it. Like I said, there's got increased volume going there, but look at the volume here on the weekly chart. It's still not there yet, right? So it's, may not be a super flush time, but we'll see how that goes. GME, another meme name that kind of works its way down, but look at how low this volume has been recently. It's not really amazing volume. Even on the weekly chart, you can see not much. Look when AMC was really going, look at the weekly volume that started to come in here, right? So this whole move, look at that huge volume coming in here. Huge volume coming in on the weekly chart. Very important stuff to get confirmation on those time frames. So pretty cool stuff there. GRWG, Grug, good volume. Right at the 200-day moving average. Low volume on the weekly chart, so it's not really super duper exciting. So it may just kind of hold here. A lot of the pot names got kind of hit here today. So no pun intended on that one. So, and then let's take a look at Beyond. So Beyond, yeah, nasty, right? Nicely pulled back right here. Lost the 50-day moving average and a big breakdown on that one here too. So again, volume's really not here on the weekly chart, but you can see how the volume started to pop when Beyond is ready to go. You're gonna get some volume on that weekly chart too to really start to move things. So pretty cool stuff there. Good. Alphabet's got a few in here via Twitter, so let's take a look at these here. So Wow on the radar. So wow, pretty interesting, right? So notice how the volume has, on that last push up, right, we had a big volume on the weekly chart, same here, right? And here, it's kind of tapering off a little bit. So again, let's see how it does. It's holding the 80 EMA, so it's kind of grinding its way up. We do have increased volume here today. And let's take a look at Trip. So Trip, again, increasing volume here on the downside. You can definitely start to notice this as well. We lost the 200-day moving average and starting to see some volume increasing on the weekly chart. So definitely keep Trip on the bearish radar now that we lost the 200-day moving average. May come back and retest it, but still, it's definitely looking bearish there on the weekly side too. So good stuff there. And Otas sent a few in via Twitter here as well. Otas pointed out one of the stock names that we had in the bubble report today as an action name, and Piton was definitely a good mover off of that. It was a gap below our key levels here. We had all the volume pre-market, and then gave a nice drop here today and kind of finished down a little bit lower here too. So that was from the bubble report this morning. It's pretty cool stuff there, but we got Roku on the radar. So Roku, again, interesting. We actually pointed this out as a short idea in the group today, like I mentioned. Another interesting thing too, volume starting to increase. I mean, we're getting some declining volume in here, but things are starting to look potentially a little bit bearish here. A couple things, like for instance, we might be working on a bearish CD wing here of a potentially bullish harmonic, right? So a couple things that we can see, that we can note, is we have a 382 here. Right, we got about a 618 here. So depending where this thing wants to go, right, this thing might go to the 1.618 is a potential future target on this, right? If now when it gets there, who knows? But pretty interesting stuff here is the 1.618 corresponds right with the cloud. If Roku is finally getting ready to start on a little bit of a kind of a corrective pattern, so something to keep an eye on right there. And I believe we still have a closing gap below, so that's definitely another thing to keep an eye on. So good stuff there. Let's take a look at Docu. Roku Doku, you got Roku and Doku on the radar, so pretty cool stuff there. Look at old Roku. I'm sorry, Doku. Wow, nasty close here today below the 80 MA. It's got plenty of room to the downside if it wants to test a couple of these levels. Volume starting to increase here. Right, weekly chart is still kind of not really there, but it's forming a bearish engulfing candle off of the off of the weekly chart here and off of the upper Bollinger Band, right? If RSI were overbought there, that'd be like, very, very bearish type signals, right? So something to keep an eye on too. Good stuff. And bullish bearish trades, what's going on? Good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. You got Cat on the radar. Nice. Good find on that one. This is on my radar too. I like the increased volume on this one. It looks like it might want to come down and test that 210 level. So that's a possibility. If it loses that, might see some more downside. Let's take a look at Etsy. Etsy with a nice pullback here today too, right at the 200-day moving average to see if it tests that and how it handles it. And then Facebook. Facebook with a bearish engulfing candle day. Real body engulfing the prior real body after an upward trend. Again, we talked about this last night, right? We talked about the, on Twitter, we talked about the possible triple top right here, and it looks like that kind of ended up playing out a little bit here today. So we'll see if it gets any follow through. So good stuff there. And then PLTR, let's take a look. PLTR, yeah, pretty nasty on this one here too. Again, volume overall is kind of declining this kind of whole path down. Watch your weekly chart. Volume's kind of a little bit there. But again, nice loss of the cloud and good volume today. So good stuff there. And then Twitter. So Twitter, again, did really good, right? Ended up filling the gap here with a little bit of volume, right? So if you kind of go back here to the 621 area, right? If you go back to the 621 week, right, you can see that that volume increased, right? To get that gap moving, right? This type of volume kind of coming in here was really good. Nice increasing volume. And now things are kind of tapering off a little bit, but it did get increased volume here today with an upper shadow off of a couple of these levels. So good stuff. Good find on that one. Armando, what's going on? Good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. Let's see. Let's take a look. Yeah, we got Walmart on the radar. So Walmart getting interesting, actually. Really good find on this one. I would like to have seen a little bit more volume on it, but starting to take the inside week up. I did not catch this one today. But I think that's a good one to keep on the bullish radar going into tomorrow as well. If we can break above these highs. In fact, I kind of want to put that on the radar. Let's see. So Walmart trade. Okay, cool. So yeah, great find on Walmart. Again, volume's really not really there, but I do like how it's breaking out of this range right here. So good find. Let's see if that holds and if we get some more volume on it. So good stuff there. Netflix, let's take a look. So Netflix again, guys, filled the gap today and then just kind of did its job, right? So Netflix just being Netflix with this kind of choppy, sloppy price action. Whoa, look at that after hours. Goodness gracious, they have some news or something. Game on. Netflix hires first video game executive, signaling new approach. Okay. Well, didn't they hire a CFO recently who used to work at Activision? But anyway, I guess they got someone who's dedicated to video games. So who knows? Maybe choose your own adventure shows. But that gave it a little bit of a pop here after hours after filling the gap today. And it's still got a little bit of room here on this harmonic, right? So it could actually potentially, this is basically a 382 here. Right off of the 3, that was a 382 move right there, which means this could turn into a crab pattern. Kind of test this level right here to here to here. So we're already at the 224. This thing could go to the 2.618, but a crab pattern would take us all the way to the 3.618, which would take Netflix potentially up to 600. So definitely keep an eye on that. But it's Netflix, so they're not going to make it easy, right? So it loves to do this like red day, green day, red day, green day. They don't make it. Typically, Netflix doesn't really move that smooth anymore, but we'll keep an eye on it. So good stuff there. And you got TJX still on the radar. Let's take a look. Yeah, TJX, nice pop right there. I wish it really could have closed a little bit stronger above this recent pivot level, but kind of left it with an upper shadow on it, making it a little bit complex, right? And also rejected its cloud level here too. So it's interesting stuff there. And then Verb, let's take a look. Yeah, look at this thing. Wild name, right? So again, you go to the weekly chart, and this look at all the volume that's been coming in on the weekly chart right here. But a lot of volume here on the daily chart. Not an easy name. Like it's prone to these big pushes and then big upper shadows, right? It's also a penny name too. So good stuff. Yeah, my pleasure. Thierry. Yeah, Neo. Good. Yeah, so let's take a look at this one. We kind of just talked about this a little bit, profiled this a little bit right here. A little bit of volume came in here recently, right, when we talked about last week, a couple weeks ago on the Elliott Wave show. Another thing that's kind of cool about that move up is we did have increasing volume that week too, right? And then things just kind of started to calm down a little bit. So it is declining on declining volume, and it's kind of sitting right at the 200-day between the 50-day right here. So see how that holds its support, right? If it does break down some more, right, we could get a potential symmetrical move down here, right? Basically down to the cloud. So that that's kind of what I would kind of look at right here and see how that goes. So pretty interesting stuff. A little bit of weakness in the Chinese electric vehicle names today. Open gap down here, right in this area right here too, which would correspond with the cloud too. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on as well. So cool, good stuff. Really appreciate it. And John, what's going on? Good to see you. Thanks for tuning in at Disney. So we're keeping this on the bullish radar here still a little bit because we may have a double pause day, but you got to be careful with this one because it might turn into a Boeing, right? Which also gave us a kind of this double. There was double green pause days, and then it ended up working its way down, right? So we really need to see some volume coming back in. We had a nice breakout right here. Now let's see if some volume can come back in to the upside and kind of get Disney going. The weekly chart already has the volume associated with it. Now we just need the price action to confirm it here on the daily chart. So good stuff there. And then Honeywell, let's take a look. Honeywell, yeah, nice push on this one here today. Nice push above the cloud. And then TSM. So pretty interesting stuff. Got a nice gap up. Nice push yesterday and another gap up here today. Watch out for your earnings, right? So we got earnings coming out tomorrow before the open. So obviously could go any which way it wants to. This thing doesn't really tend to move too much on earnings because it's gapping all over the place anyway. So I wouldn't expect too much crazy earnings stuff, but you could look at the 15 orb going into tomorrow. So good stuff. Awesome, guys. Really great chart requests here tonight. Really appreciate everybody for tuning in. Ink just joined us here. Let's take a look and see what we got. So we got Netflix on the radar. We just did a pretty big, extensive discussion on Netflix. But basically, filled the gap today. Had some news after hours about hiring a video game executive, getting it up right here. And then really 600 is kind of a potential target for it if it does a crab pattern here on the harmonic. So that's something to keep an eye on. Now, how it does it is, up to Netflix, right? So, TTD, guys, a little diamond formation today, kind of breaking down below the diamond here with some increased volume here to the downside. So, again, watch if it breaks down below today's lows, and these lows right here about 73.20 might come down to the 72 area and try to tag that 200-day moving average. It's also got a couple closing gaps below that might get tested. So, good stuff there. All right, awesome stuff, guys. Really appreciate everybody for tuning in and for the chart requests. Hopefully you guys have been finding this series helpful. I think today's topic was a really good one and is often overlooked because we tend to focus in on the narrow time frames that we look at intraday or on the daily chart, and sometimes we don't pay attention to what might be going on the bigger time frames to kind of give us some real confirmation, right? You'll see that on the really big moves, we tend to get some really big volume that comes in on the larger time frames as well. So good stuff, guys. Hopefully you found that helpful. Again, I appreciate everybody for tuning in. We'll see everybody bright and early here tomorrow morning on YouTube for the Good Morning Market Prep video. And we'll see you guys then. Until then, stay healthy out there and remember your risk first and stay safe. See you soon.